Is the Army Painter Fanatic starter set the perfect way to kick off your journey? Or is it just another budget bundle? Let's find out. Okay guys, welcome back to my little slice of the corner of the internet. And today we will be reviewing Army Painter's Fanatic starter set. If you're brand new to the hobby and you don't have any paints or tools just yet, this might actually be the set for you. There are YouTube video guides that will walk you through this set. Have you tried this set? Let me know what you think in the comments section down below. When I first cracked open the box, it felt super beginner friendly. You get everything to paint a mini from start to finish. Here's what comes in the box. One single model with a base, no priming, no mold lines, no sanding, just prime and go. 10 paint dropper bottles, a brush on primer, and a free brush. Starter brush from Army Painter. The model comes as an all-in-one. The model is simple but solid. The only downside, the model has a few gaps that are filled that makes it a little bit difficult to paint. Let's talk paints, because they're actually pretty good paint. They're Army Painter Warpaints, so they're going to be good. Obviously, the Army Painter paints come in a dropper bottle. That's a win in my book. Dropper bottles instead of pots, that's a massive win. Way less mess, more control, and it helps your paints last long. Bonus, each bottle comes with a little mixing ball inside, so you can just shake it up and get a smooth, consistent mix without any extra tools. The brush on primer works, but don't expect a smooth coat. You'll need a couple thin layers to cover the whole model. For the paint themselves, they're decently pigmented and easy to apply. They do chip a little too easy though if you scratch them on something or put them up against something. But that just may have been my experience with the Army Painters. I've had to go back and fill in a couple of chips that I see here or there, or I'm just thinning my paints too much. So they are easy to touch up, so that balances itself out. And the brush, honestly, not that bad. I've had worse in different starter sets. It kept a finer point longer than I expected. Even when it starts to fray, you can start shaping it, reshape it back into a fine point. This is also great practice for beginners. I should know, I am a beginner. You can learn how to thin your paints properly, how it flows, and how to apply layers all on one mini. Plus there's an Army Painter YouTube tutorial that's easy to follow along with this paint set, which makes it a lot easier to follow along. And that's where I started out with this paint set. I started out getting the brush on primer and trying that. I brushed it all over the model and made sure it to sit for at least 24 hours before painting anything else on the model. It is very important when using a brush on primer to make it sure that you are thinning it properly, where you're going to cause a thicker coat than you need to be, and it's going to obscure some of the detail on the model. When following the Army Painter tutorial, it's stated to apply a small thin coat of primer so as the paint could stick to the model. My suggestion for this part is to go out and buy yourself a cheap, bigger brush. Not one of the painter brushes for your house, but a small, cheap, big brush that you can use to apply the primer to your model. As you can see in this part of the video, I have to go through and cover each spot steadily instead of applying with a bigger brush, more effective, even coat throughout the model. After I let it sit for overnight to let all the primer dry, I go back through and apply a second coat to make sure
that it is completely covered and none of that model color is showing through the primer. It's probably always better to do 2 thin coats than 1 thick coat. So make sure you do that. The tutorial doesn't say to apply a second coat, but if you apply a thinner coat than you needed to, probably should go through with a second. Okay, the Army Painter tutorial says to start off base coating all your colors. So I start off with red like the tutorial. I use 1 drop of red to 1 drop of distilled water. That's the way I thin my paint. So when starting with the red, start filling in the parts that it says in the tutorial to do red. I try to take my time, even though the tutorial says that you don't have to be perfect. I try to be perfect, just for the practice. Then the tutorial states to go in with brown and start covering all the leather straps. It also says to do the scabbard, but you can use brown or black on this part. In the next part of the tutorial, it says to color in the blue cloth parts and the other part of the shield and the top of the helmet. Then the next part of the tutorial states to color the gloves black. I'm pretty sure you could also use leather brown for this as well. It's all depending on what you want to do. I am following the The next part in the tutorial, it states to start filling in all the color of plate mail with all the metallics, like the sword, the shoulder, the arms, and the feet. And next you have a greedy gold situation, where you start applying these to the shoulder bits. I take it and apply it to the trim of the helmet and the middle emblem piece, as well as the base of the sword, as well as the rim of the shield. The Army Painter didn't go through this part of the tutorial. I took green because I needed to use the green to test it out, and colored the middle area jewel green along with the circles on the sword to give it more of a jewel look and to be able to use the green. Now, at this point, you go in with a wash and you cover the mini to add extra shading as they state in the tutorial video. So I went through and added wash all the way through the model. I try to not let it sit outside the recesses and try to clean it up the best I can. I would say I applied a thin layer of it, not as thick as I should have, but it does the job. Finally, in the last part of the tutorial, they go back through the model and do some highlight touches after the wash. I kinda did this, but I didn't capture any footage of it. I apologize for it.
So, pros for this set. Dropper bottles equal beginner friendly. Dropper bottles means beginner friendly and clean. Built-in mixing bowls make prep easy. Model is ready to paint. No prep needed on that. The free starter brush is better than most starter brushes that you get in a set, but experiences may vary on that. Comes with a paintbrush primer from weather is not so great. And I am going through a storm, so I was not able to do aerosol primer. And I took this tutorial as if I was a beginner. Easy to fix chips, great for learning and practicing techniques, and includes a full tutorial online. Now let's go with the cons. The primer goes on a little uneven and it's going to take a bunch of practice to actually even out the primer. But most people don't use brush primer just for that reason. And if you're not very careful on holding the model, the paint chips easily. That starter brush will eventually fray on you, and you have to keep it in good condition to make it work for you. And the starter set obviously does not come with a varnish to help you preserve your model and protect its finish. So, who is this set for? If you are getting into mini painting, this is your first great step to buy. You don't need to buy anything else to get started. It's also a great option if you want to practice techniques, try a new brand, or just paint a quick mini without breaking the bank. For the price and what's included, I'll give it a solid 3 out of 5 stars. A few flaws, but nothing that ruins the experience. What do you think? Is it something you try, or is it something you've already tried? If this review helped you out, leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment if it did. Hey, if you're starting out and you need some tips, check out the guide that I mentioned. Links will be in the description, and don't forget to wash those dirty sprues.